Football is here, and the games are on at Wing House Bar and Grill. Watch all the action with your friends and enjoy hot wings and perfectly poured cold beer. We have Budweiser and Bud Light draft pints for only $2.49 and buckets of 5 bottles for $12.99 every Saturday and Sunday. Get a taste of our limited-time End Zone Eats menu with big, meaty pig wings. And nothing says game time more than a grilled bratwurst. This house was built on wings, cold beer, and football. Wing House Bar and Grill. Good food, beautifully served.
God will not be mocked. God will not be mocked.
I know it leads to where I need to go. The only mistake is not to go. The mistake is not to walk the path. So I will walk the path. Here I run, I'm gonna cross the road. Ha 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 ha. I'm gonna cross the road. I'm gonna find my way home. I know they might try to shoot me. I got the prize for them. I'm gonna cross the road. I'm gonna go home. Suddenly confusing, I oppose you. You oppose me.
So amazing. That's Zeph Daniels, Across, and you can find Zeph Daniels' original music on Spreaker.com. So, welcome to the Porthole to Justice. I am your host, Amelia Duran, and this is a special podcast. I have my very good girlfriend, Katrina Hagen, and we're going to be talking about electronic warfare, targeting, and immunity trafficking. She has done some really revolutionary research, and she's really actually quite amazing. And I really adore her, so I'm looking forward to catching up with her. I actually had this. I'll wait till I get her on. Stand by. So exciting. Okay, let's see. Here we go. Call. People don't call me on Messenger. I don't use Messenger for phone calls because you interrupt my podcast. I try to disable it. Are we still? Yeah, we're still live. Okay, let's see. I don't know why people call you on Messenger. You really, unless you're, you actually give somebody your phone number. It's kind of odd. Hi.
Hi, how are you?
I am so good. I am looking forward to this show. I have something to tell you. So the other night, you know how you and we don't sleep very well?
Yeah.
And the other night I was like, I'm halfway in this like light sleeping state. And I was dreaming that I was getting up to go to the kitchen and get something to drink. And I walked in my living room and you were sitting on my couch in a blanket. And you're like, can I have some coffee?
That's actually realistic. I may have teleported.
It was so real. It's like those dreams that you have when you're going, when you like you dream you're going to the bathroom or something.
Oh my God. Oh my God. That's wild.
I know. And here we are.
I know, having coffee.
And Jeff is tuning in. Hi. I so love and adore. I love everybody and that's coming together to kind of shape and open our eyes to this new reality, which is it's a whole nother ball game. It's electronic targeting, and you've done some really amazing research. Can you tell everybody a little bit about yourself and your background?
Yeah, well, I'm a targeted individual. I've been targeted since about 2010, but it's been lifelong. I'm a well-known psychic in the Chicagoland area and MK Ultra survivor. So, but my story, it develops. So it's like an onion, basically. There's so many layers to it. I was targeted. I didn't know why I was targeted. Then I found out that I was targeted for like a breeding program and for like a baby. And then I found out that the targeting was actually like a red herring for immunity trafficking, which is what we're going to cover today. And it's pretty widespread, and it's a very little known crime and form of human trafficking. So, yeah.
And this is no longer like a conspiracy because, we've published a lot of information in the Porthole to Justice. And, recently Zeph had brought to my attention this website, targetedjustice.com. And so I'm really excited. And, I don't know if everybody recalls, they staged that. I don't even think it was real testimony, but they staged that interview with Mark Zuckerberg of Facebook regarding, the data leaks and Cambridge Analytica and all of that. So there's so much out there to substantiate your work.
Yeah, well, I mean, they have operatives within Facebook and YouTube and Google and all them that just steal it anyway, steal all of our data anyway. So, they don't even have to sell it. So, I mean, how much trouble do you want to get into today?
That's my nickname, Trouble. No, I'm just kidding.
So, I found that out also. I was on YouTube, and all of a sudden in 2015, end of 2014, all my videos got ghosted. So basically what they're doing now with the conservative voices, how they're ghosting all their videos and basically trying to delete their channels and nitpicking and striking them. They started doing that with immunity trafficking victims that were working back in 2014. Because I actually met other people that were in the same situation that I was in, and they had YouTube channels, and they were targeting specifically psychic females and females with metaphysical abilities. And it was rampant. They were stealing our videos. We didn't know what was going on. And now in hindsight, I can see basically how they started what's rampant now with conservatives, and they did that with women that they thought were attractive and wanted to use for breeding programs. And sex slavery, human trafficking, and all of that. So it's pretty wild how everything is kind of coming together, and things that were happening to people before are coming in the news now. So, in my own case, I was able to recently identify my network had changed. Everything changed in my router. So I looked at my IP and found out that my name servers are hooked up directly to the NSA, the CIA, the FISA courts, the Department of Counterterrorism, all kinds of stuff. I haven't done anything. And it's April 6th, somebody put those on. So, but that goes into the immunity trafficking that we'll kind of discuss today.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah.
So I was I think you have the broadcast running in the background, because we're getting some echo feedback.
Okay, how about now? I don't have anything on.
Oh, wow. So they might be triangulating us, like Lotus says. Oh, no. Oh, no.
Oh, right there. I have a fan on. Let me turn the fan off.
Okay. Yeah, we get when I do podcasts with Lotus, we get, when they triangulate and there's so many people tapping into the phone line, what tends to happen is we get an echo. So we need the eavesdroppers to update their technology so it's not so obvious.
Is it better now with the fan off?
Yes. Okay. That's good.
Okay, good. All right.
So I got into I found you on Facebook, and I knew, there was something to this targeting on Facebook, because a lot of, my targeting prior to my son being trafficked and myself, we experienced a lot of the targeting and censoring on Facebook. And so I ran into some of your information, and it answered a lot of questions for me. And I don't quite understand how you do it, how you go in and you track these IP numbers. Can you explain how you do your research?
Yeah, well, I basically have just been working on my own case because I'm trying to get out of this situation. So what I do, it started with tracer routes, and I had learned about what tracer routes were, and I looked into them. And basically, it just shows the hops of where all your information is going to on your IP address. And so I got into those, started analyzing them, and found out that there were that I shared a lot of IP addresses with people that were perpetrators. And then from there, I started to look into IP addresses, name servers on my. It's hard to explain without having a visual to show people, but basically it's just network analysis, IP analysis. I go over everything with a fine-tooth comb. I already know who most of my perpetrators are, so it was easy to go in and look at their information and then corroborate it with mine, and it was usually, almost 100% match. And then I had also learned about from like other researchers, you know, like companies that were involved in this, like Serco was involved, and then Serco was connected to someone who I know who was targeting me and their email address. It was 100% match. But it just kind of, it's just kind of been...
I know Unilever is one of them.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, let's talk about how these they come into your real life via electronic targeting. Because I know we mentioned that the other night we were chatting.
Yeah,
let's talk about some of these, because I notice a lot of these. Okay, well, I very recently had to deal for a few months with I call it a program. I warred with someone that wanted my network basically, and to take it down, and was working, you know, with Anonymous, and she actually succeeded in taking away my music group and some of the other groups that we had formed, and attacking my friend Lionel of New World Order Freedom Fighters as well. We lost some huge branches of our network, and they're kind of like sleeper cells. They're there for a long time, and then they like take over really quickly, and you're just like, oh my gosh, you know, this is going to take some surgical extraction.
Oh, it never ends when you find out like what they've done. You think you got to the bottom of what they've done, and then you have to, you know, then you just keep finding out more. So how did you end up finding out, like, how did she take down your networks? Like, what did she do?
It was basically a war over territory, you know, on Facebook.
Oh, wow.
And, she works with Anonymous.
Yeah.
And she has some of these larger new age groups.
Yeah.
And she was in my friends list for years, and you know, all of a sudden, you know, it was like, okay, I'm taking over.
Okay, well, I saw it, and I saw exactly what was happening, but I didn't want to be that friend that, like, knows everything. But next time I will be.
Well, no, and everybody was like, why don't you just get rid of her? And I'm like, it's not that easy, you guys. This is, you know, she's in all of the groups, and she's moderator. I didn't even, like, some of the groups she was added as moderator and admin, and you know, and then, you know, the hacking.
Yeah.
And I'm still dealing with that a little bit, but it's not too bad.
Good.
Yeah, so basically that was it.
Okay.
It came down to, you know, I think we gave her 2 or 3 of the groups. Lionel ended up giving her a couple of the groups, and I just cut ties with some of the groups. And I just figure, you know, the good people that are in there, they'll end up finding us and coming back.
Yeah, they will. I mean, you can always start new groups, you know, and then start fresh, which might actually be better.
Yeah.
You know, 'cause once they kind of get their tentacles on a group, it's hard to clean it up.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so.
Yeah. But like, you know, like you said, it was just like it kind of makes a joke of all your work, you know, and it's my brand, and and you know, I didn't want to, like, I was trying to do it as, like, peacefully as possible. It's done, it's over with. So, but yeah, you know, I don't even think they realize what they're being set up to do.
I think she did. That one, I think she did.
Yeah.
I don't know. Well, we'll talk later about that.
Well, no, you had actually... No, I want to talk about it, because you had actually done some research.
Well, I've dealt with that group. They're that New Age group. They're the ones that took over the YouTube psychics. And they basically took over the whole, like, all the psychics. All of a sudden, they were the ones that were hacking us. And they were the ones that went in and basically destroyed all of our channels. And then use their hackers to go in and just destroy all of our businesses. And then we had girls like her that took over. Mm-hmm. And there's a plethora of them now. I mean, when I started on YouTube doing readings, it was maybe 20 or 30 of us. And we were all professional. We were all, like, really supportive of each other. And then all of a sudden, like, they showed up. Like, it was like an alien invasion. Mm-hmm. And they took everything over. Mm-hmm. And then got rid of the good psychics. And now you go on, there's like 300 of them on there. You can't even find the old group, like the core group of readers that were on there. Now it's just all these, these crazy people. Mm-hmm. So, and they're not professional, and they're scripted. Everything they say is about mission, galaxy, ascension, energy. It's just cookie cutter in how they do it. But what they're really doing is fleecing information from people. Because when people call their advisor, they share a lot of information. So
yeah, in fact, I had warned one of my friends that has a rather large platform this morning, and I had mentioned, wow, she must be still listening to my radio show because she uses my content as subject matter.
Yeah, no, she does. I mean, they're spies. That's basically what they are. I mean, people think of what a spy looks like, and it's generally not, they don't look like spies, but that's what they are. They're part of the gang stalking network. A lot of the new age people are highly involved in gang stalking. So that's basically what. No, Manila. That's basically what had happened. So, but what I found out is that they saw the core psychics on YouTube doing really well financially. So what they did is they got rid of us, sent in their own, and then what they're doing is just gathering information, finding out who's got money, who doesn't. They're all criminals. Mm-hmm. They're a bunch of grifters.
Yeah, so I towards the end, I was really desperate, and I was desperate to purge her and her stuff from my group, and I reached out to you, and you're like, yeah, she's part of this. And I'm like, oh my God, my eyelashes were curling because you were giving me like such specific information.
Oh yeah, I knew who she was right away. And then, I mean, we could even get into why they promote so much marijuana all the time, because human trafficking is run out of pot farms. Uh-huh. So, and basically what they're doing, they just do what they're told. Mm-hmm. And if they're going to promote anything, vitamin C, they're going to promote it. So what they're doing is they're basically trying to get people up. They're just making their bosses money. That's it, by promoting marijuana. But they're not promoting the healthier marijuana oil and that. They're promoting drug use, just constant drug use. Yeah. And I saw that on your groups, and I'm like, what is happening here? I was like,
I did go through. I did merge with some of the. I work with Michael Brooks. And I am pro legalizing it in all 50 states.
Yeah,
and for children and veterans, people that suffer from Parkinson's and seizure disorders and things of that nature. However, this was over the top.
Yeah, it was. I went on the anti-human trafficking page, and I'm like. Now, I'm a human trafficking victim myself, and I'm seeing her smoking weed, and I'm like, what is going on here? I'm like, this is insane.
I know, it didn't even relate to the subject matter, and it was like, it was to the point of spam,
It was.
I mean, just total, excessive narcissism in that one. I think that I think everybody's kind of onto her, though. I really do. It's, it's coming around.
Yeah. Well, I have a zero tolerance policy with that crew. I really do. When you work 20 years to become one of the best in the industry, and then you get taken out by these kids, it's like, what? you know?
Yeah.
So, yeah, no, I could tell you all kinds of stuff about them.
Yeah. Well, you know, feel free to enlighten us as much as possible, because, you know, everybody needs to know that this is what they're doing. They're operating and they're going around and they're breaking down these other groups, and they're absorbing other, you know, your friends and in your network, and breaking down your groups. And I see her targeting another light worker group. You know, well, let's talk about your. Okay, let's change the subject. Let's talk about innate psychic abilities.
Okay, all right. Well, I was born with mine. I mean, from the time I was little, I was psychic. I was in the Psychic Kids program out of NORAD when I was like 9 years old. We had gone there. So, I mean, I've been psychic my whole life, and it's just like another sense. It's very hard to explain. It's like, you know, seeing or hearing. You can't explain how you hear or how your heart beats. You just know things. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. I think too, when we're isolated to the extent that we are, it kind of heightens our senses.
Yeah. Well, and also trauma does too, because you're always having to check the weather. So that's why, you know, like they have the Theta psychic programs with MK Ultra, and the kids are, you know, generally put through trauma-based mind control, because when you're traumatized, you hit a higher level of dissociation. Mm-hmm. And usually there's some kind of like an altar that comes in that is the guide, you know. So that's how it works with MK Ultra people. Mm-hmm. But some people are just born with it, you know. They just are, you know, they're just psychic.
I notice how they hijack a lot of our content and integrate it as New Age, or try to use that as like a fishing hook, you know, to bring people in initially.
Yeah.
It's just, yeah.
No, they do. And I even looked at like the people that were on the list and all the so-called healers. I mean, if you looked at, I don't know, I looked at the people and I knew that they were just off. These mm-hmm. people didn't look at themselves. So it just, I don't know. But yeah, but they'll take over everything if they can. Any little thing, they're pretty ruthless about taking everything and then just leaving you high and dry. But that's what they're doing. They're going after authentic people, and like I said, they're grifters. They just take whatever they can get their hands on. Uh-huh. So, and then they basically ruin the quality of what was originally there. Uh-huh. So, but like even when they gang stalk people, they'll move into a whole neighborhood. They'll move all their operatives in, and they're all criminals. And then the whole place will, like the whole area will just degenerate in 3 or 4 months. Mm-hmm. I watched it happen everywhere I lived. So I think it's just part of taking society down from the inside.
Yeah.
I think that's what it has to do with. So
you using your abilities, because the nature of your targeting, you were able to devise sort of a system to nail these people down to specific individuals, human beings.
Oh, yeah, and companies and individuals within there. I was able to look at my old website addresses that go back to like 2009, and I found out that this is about a week ago that the Trafficking network had taken them over even back then.
The human trafficking?
Yeah, that they had all my websites hacked even back in 2009 before I knew anything about this. Mm-hmm. So this has been like for a very long time. So
what did you think? What did you think about the the Cambridge Analytica and the Facebook data leak?
I didn't know much about it. I mean, I'm kind of overwhelmed with information about everything that's going on, so I didn't look too much into it. But I know that Cambridge isn't the only one that they're using, and they're using all different kinds of, companies to leak data. Mm-hmm. Basically, all data mining anyway. Uh-huh. So everything is.
Well, yeah, that's kind of what I do too.
I do too.
And it's funny because I knew, I knew intuitively that when I embarked on this journey, I knew intuitively that it was all interconnected. And now it's all there. All the evidence is there. And social child protective services being a cult, the gang stalking, the targeting, the electronic warfare, all of it. And I want to get more into some of where your research actually led you, and the realizations that you came to regarding some of these people.
Well, okay. Let's actually start with how it's more of a process of how they take the woman down, that they're wanting to basically target for CPS, for trafficking their children, and they're even doing it before the woman gets pregnant. They're using something. Oh my God, it's storming here. Okay, they're using something called immunity trafficking. And what they're doing is there's judges and law enforcement and private investigators that are putting women under bogus investigations. And it's a well-established crime ring. And it's basically massive racketeering, dirty money laundering. There's a lot of different. It's really scary how it can happen, because it's happening to all kinds of women. It's even happening to like celebrities. Mm-hmm.
I think if you're attractive, and you're not in their system, you're not in their human trafficking network, they're definitely targeting you. Really.
Yeah. Well, you don't even have to be attractive, though. I mean, if you have money that they want to steal, they'll put.
Yeah, that too.
Like I said, they're grifters. Anything that you have that they want, they'll put you in this. They don't care. So basically what they're doing and how they did it to me. Oh, God. Did you hear this?
What was that? Are you okay?
Yeah, it's thunder.
Oh, okay.
I think it's God. Oh, my.
He's
all right.
Clapping.
Yeah. Oh, my God. That was wild. All right. The whole house shook. All right. Okay. So, all right. I have my notes here. And basically what they're doing is they're... Oh, come on. All right. So they're misusing police officers, judges, lawyers, government workers are misusing investigations to basically target women for this. And what they're doing is, let's see. All right, they're setting the women up basically they're pushing her to buy a house. And they did this to me in 2014. I had one of their operatives from the U.S. Army and Department of Defense come in as like a honeypot. And he's like, you need to get your own house, buy your house. So I did. Everything was going really well. And then what they do, the crime ring will come in and they'll basically infiltrate her phone, computer, home, whereabouts. You're under an invisible leash. You basically, it's premeditated. And what this is being done for is to strip the woman of all of her assets and basically force her into a human trafficking ring that is is basically hidden in plain sight. The woman can go out, she can go and work and she can do things every day, but she's constantly monitored by this ring of criminals.
Mm-hmm.
Let me see. I have all the notes. Now that I'm on live, now my notes are like not making.
That's okay. Take your time.
Okay, so what they're doing, so what they do is they infiltrate everything about her, and then they follow her. They create premeditated and humiliating harms against her. They contact her entire business and income earning portfolio and her family, so she'll be isolated and alienated. And what they're doing is they're claiming that she's under an investigation. They're manufacturing bogus, or fabricating bogus evidence and telling people in the community that she's a prostitute. And then basically what they want to do is the house that she bought, they want to strip her of that asset. So what they're doing is they're micromanaging the sale of her property. And basically, because they're controlling all of her phone lines, all of her emails and everything, only people from the trafficking ring are actually going to get through. So, and what they're going to do is lowball her. They did this to me in 2 different locations. And, like, literally nobody could get through. Mm. Let me see what else. But it's just racketeering. And then kind of how the woman will, how they're picked. There could be someone who the criminal group decides is someone who they want to knock down a peg or two. They like to basically set up cameras in our houses, bedroom, bathroom, all over. They send in men to date her and traumatize her purposely. Mm-hmm. And then behind closed doors, what they're doing is they're telling judges and other law enforcement that this woman is a prostitute and that and if she ever reports any of the things that are happening, it's because she, mm-hmm. she asked for it. So
yeah,
it's
or they accuse you of being on drugs, or an alcoholic, or anything to besmirch your character, or whoever's being targeted. And once these allegations, my allegations were made against myself by my son's ex-wife's parents and his wife. And I was drug tested, and it all came up negative. But the judge ruled that he felt I was just getting lucky. And so he was going to substantiate my case anyways.
Really?
Yeah, they have the discretion to do that. It's called plenary of authority. And it's abuse of power, really, is what it is. There's no due process in the lower courts. And the attorneys really don't, they fail at their fiduciary duties. They withhold the evidence. It's awful. I mean, it's a Holocaust is what it is. It's a war on our families and the children.
Yeah, it is. It seems, like I said, they're taking the U.S. down, from the inside out. Yeah. So, and they have a lot of different ways to do it. It's like a well-oiled machine how they're pulling it off.
Yeah.
Scary. And how many people? Well, it's like how many people are participating in it for gift cards. It makes no sense.
Uh-huh.
So,
really? Are you being serious for gift cards?
Yeah. There are people that do gang stalking and get paid in gift cards because they're not traceable. And then the higher level ones get paid in Bitcoin. Mm-hmm. So, yeah. Anything that's not trackable is how they get paid. But you're destroying your own country. It doesn't even make sense. It's very weird. Mm-hmm. So, but yeah, I like you said earlier, I don't know if they know exactly if they're given all the information about why they're doing what they're doing, like the end goal of it.
Uh-huh.
You know what I mean?
I noticed too that, just some of my research, it's the lower level social workers, the entry level social workers that do a lot of the gain stalking and targeting, because, eventually the end goal is to traffic the children.
Yeah, well, it is, and to disenfranchise the mother, or the father, or whoever they're taking the kid from. Because what I found out is that their CPS is, because they were also on my tracer route and my routers and stuff like that, going back to at least, as far as I could see, 2013, they are, they're gang stalking the woman prior to having the kid, creating a situation where she's smeared and disenfranchised, and then even after they take the child, they're still gang stalking the woman to make sure that she never gets back on her feet fully, to get the children back.
Yeah, and once you start working, or you go to a new job, or you move to another location, it's like it only takes about a month or 2 weeks. They contact the boss and they, attack your character, and they start spreading rumors about you. And then eventually, your boss calls you in and, we're going to let you go,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and that's how it works. And I mean, because I've known women who've had their kids taken away by CPS, and then I checked their local office where they were at, and, with their IP address, and 10 years, 20 years after they had the kids taken, they were still on her tracer route. Mm-hmm. So it never ends.
And they keep bringing you in to jail on these bogus charges. I didn't even own a car at the time they came and arrested me in my home the night before Christmas. Mm-hmm. And on a DUI violation, or a probation violation, I have a fake DUI on my record. Yeah, if you can believe this. And the courts even acknowledge that it's not real because I had no car. I wasn't driving. And but they won't. I tried to have it. Squashed, and they won't remove it. The county of Tulare, where I was, and I was put in jail. And okay, this is what I'm getting at. It was so odd because I was sitting in the the holding cells that they have you in, and I'm like, what the heck am I doing here? And these women are like, oh, you're going to need to pay your legal bills. How are you going to do that? And I have a boyfriend I can fix you up with. Are you single? He can help you make money.
Ugh.
And this is what they're all talking about in these holding cells.
Oh my God.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so I had a whistleblower on, John Meekins, and he worked in these jails, I think in Northern California. I want to say Northern California, but he worked in these jails as a human trafficking. He was supposed to be monitoring the human trafficking activity, but he wasn't really there. They weren't allowing him to do his job. I think he monitored the phone calls and things of that nature.
Yeah.
And so he realized, that, they're trafficking babies and women out of these jails. Yeah. And so what they do is they get these women tied up with these, handlers or pimps, and they end up drugs or what have you, and they get pregnant. They go to jail, and the attorneys will contact them and say, well, look, we can put a couple grand on your books, and we'll take your baby and make sure it gets adopted. And they're just adopting these babies out of the jail hand over fist. And these women will get out, and they'll use that money for first and last, and they'll try to get jobs, and they can't get a job. And what ends up happening is they'll go back to selling their bodies, and they'll get pregnant again, and it's just a cycle that continues over and over again.
Yeah. Well, this is the immunity trafficking. It's being run by officials. You know, I mean, all of this has to be done at a higher level than you know, like just a woman trying to get back on her feet. It takes a lot of work to really disenfranchise somebody. Like a lot. A lot of planning, a lot of work. I even was reading too that the IRS is involved in this and basically keeps an eye on everything that the woman makes too.
Yeah, your income, and if you're targeted, you're always, if you have an open CAPS case, you automatically, I think I got 2 audits in 3.5 years.
Yeah, and that's what they're doing too. And then even like your medical records, if you're in the immunity trafficking system, they'll claim that your medical records, they have the police will come in and basically find out if you have clean STD tests or if you're still healthy or what's going on with your health, so they can keep trafficking you. It's wild. I mean, I've been going through this for 3 years, and I can't even go to the doctor because I had a nurse tell me that she didn't want to help me once.
I had a nurse tell me that I had passed out. I think, well, you know, we both have health issues from the targeting, and I don't want to go into that too much, but I was unresponsive, right? They wrote in my report that I was uncooperative and that I wasn't cooperating, and so they were wanting to put me in jail, like, for not cooperating, but I was not conscious.
Oh my God. See, I won't even go to the doctor. I'll be on Google. I'll have a bunch of turmeric.
I know, me too. I was on Google last night and searching, remedies till late last night for my issues, because I just had a health scare recently. And, I'm realizing that I can't go to the doctor. And a lot of this, I guess, has to do with your blood type as well, the targeting.
Yeah. Yeah, they say that Rh negative people are targeted more. That's what they claim. I'm Rh positive though, so I don't have that. But all my perpetrators are Rh negative, so I don't know how that works. Yeah. I just think that it's a commodity.
And I don't really think it matters. But when it comes to targeting, like as far as health and things of that nature, yeah, I do think it's about the blood to some extent, but it's more about having product, which is babies and humans.
Yeah. Well, I guess too for like blood type and things, it might also have to do with the organ trafficking. And that whole mess.
Wow.
Yeah. How much trouble do you want to get into today?
Let's get a lot.
That's all I have to say is we can just go all the way down the rabbit hole.
Well, Zeph is saying they hunt Rh negatives to exterminate.
Yeah.
And they literally, sometimes you never get out of the hospital. So
Yeah. Well, that was a situation with me. They were trying to get me into the hospital, no matter what. And they even tried to have the police escort me. I wasn't doing anything. And I have all the recordings of everything that had occurred. But you couldn't pay me to go to a hospital or a police station or anywhere at this point.
Well, you're sort of unique because you have interesting lineage.
Yeah, I do. Well, my father is of the Borgia bloodline, and then I took a DNA test back in 2013 and found out that I have 40% Scandinavian. That makes no sense. So it's my grandfather was Scandinavian, but none of my grandmother's marker. She's Italian and Polish. Nothing of her was on there. So there's even some question about what my true origin is, and birth certificate is forged. just a lot of really strange things around the birth. So I'd like to kind of get into that a little bit more. But I question, because the same thing happened to my mother, that's happened to me. I wonder, what my mother's, if there wasn't something weird about her birth also. Mm. You know what I mean? So, but that was messed up. The most messed up part is growing up Italian and then like finding out on your DNA that you have 0%. That screwed me up more than anything. That was a mess.
Wow.
Yeah. I'm like, I bet I have a lot. I look, it said 0. Mm-hmm. So, yeah.
I can't even imagine.
Yeah, my case is really nuts. I mean, there's a lot of secrets behind a lot of it, and I've had helpful people come in and give me information over the years, but I'm so isolated through this trafficking system and everything being taken over that like the only way that I can even communicate at this point is like Skype or Facebook video or whatever. Mm-hmm. If I have a phone for more than 15 or 20 minutes, they'll go in and put a security code or change a security code and then lock me out of any phone that I have.
Yeah, I'm always at the Facebook. I mean, I'm always at the Apple bar,
Yeah.
I'm down there like every weekend, every other weekend. Because
you gotta watch out for them too.
well, yeah, but they're pretty nice. They're pretty good with me now because they just come in. They're like, oh yeah, we know, and they go back and they just they wipe it clean or whatever, and they're really nice to me there. And I'm so grateful, Zeph, for the Apple laptop because this is the I've had this computer, this laptop, the longest I've ever had a laptop in my life.
Yeah, well, you'll never switch. Apple's the best. I have mine forever, and I would never. I hated Apple before I got mine, and I'm like, no, it's so trendy. Everybody's got Apple. I have my PC, got the Apple. I would never ever go back to a PC. Mm-hmm. These things never break down.
They don't, and I've had my Apple phone, and I had to work from my Apple phone for a really long time, and I mean, me personally, I would never be able to afford a Mac, and I was only able to work from my phone, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I had these laptops like stacked up in the bottom of my closet, I can't do anything with them because they would just demolish them. They would just freeze up.
Yeah.
So, so I was working without a laptop for a really long time, and it was so worth it. I paid the $100 for the insurance, and I just go in and they know me here. They know me here locally now. So it's been really nice. Thank you so much, Seth. So, I know that you wanted to talk more about the immunity trafficking, but let's dig in. Let's get into the nitty gritty.
Okay. Well, all right. So there's a woman named Jessica Seymour, and she's out of, I think, San Diego, California. And she has a whole website on this. It's called victimsofimmunity.com. And this woman is amazing, and she covers all the different ways that they can traffic somebody through this system and how it's being used for medical trafficking and basically everything. But right now I'm just kind of covering the bogus investigation method. Here, let me get my stuff back. Basically, how it all works is the woman's life is completely micromanaged by these traffickers. But what's even sicker about the whole thing is that they have cameras set up, and what they're doing is live streaming every single thing that the woman is doing in her home and taking bets on like what she's going to do. And then they'll send in a man to like date her, and they'll bet how long it'll take to break her heart, or, how long before she does something, intimate with the person. And they basically watch everything. The woman is completely stripped of everything, like any kind of privacy. But this is this is so common that people don't even realize it. It's actually happening to to celebrities too. Like you see like Lindsay Lohan, who's always having all kinds of problems. And, remember like years ago when they were like Lindsay and Brittany and Paris and all those girls, remember how like they were taking like obscene paparazzi pictures of them, like, when they were getting out of limos, and it was like
with their crotch, no underwear.
yeah, stuff like that. Well, that was actually part of the immunity trafficking. They were purposely placing their cameras, like angling their cameras to get photos like that. And then you'll find like even like Britney Spears, what they've done with her, they've taken complete control of her life. The breakdown that she had when she shaved her head and supposedly went crazy, that was all induced. All of it. And that was basically so her family could take conservatorship over her estate. And to this day, she still doesn't have any control of her own money. And this is also part of how this crime group, which I think, what's his name? He called it the Star Whackers. It's the same group of people. So it's all asset stripping, racketeering, but it's happening to all levels of women. Celebrities, regular women, homeless women, it doesn't matter. And it's just basically this group of men that, and it's women too, that participate in this, but they're just people, greedy kind of people.
Yeah.
So
I started out in the beauty pageant circuit, and then when I was really young, I belonged to a dance company, and I danced for 12 years. And I think this is where they actually scout, their victims. A lot of, the perpetrators attend these productions, and, they groom them. That's where the grooming begins.
Yeah, they started there, but YouTube is huge for that now. YouTube and Instagram is where they're recruiting the most now.
I actually did an interview. You mentioned something. I did an interview with George Webb, who he has some really incredible content on YouTube. And, I'm really open about the fact that I don't date simply because I get so many of these programs, they're just guys that come in and they try to break you down and break your heart and mess with your head. They spiritually attack you. And I just, I'm over it.
No, I don't blame you. Me too.
Yeah. I've been single for the last 7 years, and, it's been so hard to get to this point that I wouldn't sacrifice it unless it was like amazing. I don't know what it would take, but my little peaceful home, I'm not going to let anybody come into my little sacred space,
Yeah. Well, and then you got to have me run his tracer route and his information, and to find out if he's okay.
Yeah, I got to run it by you, and
you got to run it by me. I'll do a psychic scan, everything. I know them like the back of my hand now. I see them now, and I'm like, oh, I get like a complete like physical reaction.
Oh, I get nauseous. It's like a psychic attack too. It's not just the physical. It's psychological. It's spiritual, and it's. I can't think of anything worse. But it doesn't. I mean, it happens to us all the time, unfortunately. However, I think Marilyn Monroe was one of the very first programs. The tests or in LA we call them Star Whackers.
Yeah, she was. Well, she was the very first Monarch program presidential model. Mm-hmm. I know she was like the prototype for the next generations, which is why Marilyn Monroe is used in programming a lot. And you always see the stars who are under MK Ultra. They always have their Marilyn pictures. Because I guess she.
Yeah, you get these guys, and they're like big time charlatans. Some of them have they're public figures, and they come in and they like woo you, and they what is it called, love bomb you.
Yeah, that's how they got me. That was part of the operation. They worked on me for a year before the actual takedown. Because I didn't travel when I met him. I was like, I don't travel, because I had already been stalked by this network for probably since 2010. So in 2013, I quit traveling because it was too dangerous. I had too many, traffickers calling my business, and it's scary, But they all, it's the same spirit. If you look at the spirit within them, it doesn't change.
The modeling, and one of the listeners mentioned that the modeling industry, it's plagued. It's all set up for, especially Victoria's Secret. You see those models parading down the runway. They're being targeted for high level escort services.
Yeah, well, that's what I heard that they were. Mm-hmm. Well, and then even like the beauty gurus who do their lookbook. I don't know if you're familiar with that, but they'll have 5 or 6 different outfits, and it's like, them showcasing themselves in their outfits. Those are actually like commercials for themselves for the trafficking network. Mm-hmm. A lot of these girls go over to like the Middle East and Dubai and that, and that's how they make a lot of their money. Mm-hmm. Because you're not gonna have like $1 million home in Los Angeles, from doing YouTube.
Yeah.
So a lot of times that's actually the secret behind what they're doing, which I heard the actresses do that a lot too.
Yeah, they do. You do it to make extra, they do it to make extra money. Something about, the targeting is to break you down so that you do compromise your morals and values, and you become more susceptible or vulnerable to the human trafficking, to these programs. That's what it's that's what it's designed for. I often I talk about the corruption, and I have shows about the corruption and how we're fighting the corruption, and I have Lotus Justice on, and she gives us updates on the 14 filings that we have in the courts, and it's functioning exactly the way it was designed. It's not corrupt. It is corrupt, but I don't think people really understand that it was designed to function this way.
Yeah. Well, and most people don't find out until they're like in trouble.
Until they're like hundreds of thousands of dollars in legal fees.
Yeah, until you find yourself like in the hole, you're like, oh my God, what's happening? And it's true. Mm. It's true. So I'm lucky. I haven't had any of that yet. So
I'm still fighting in the courts. I have court in Santa Monica in August, and I'm fighting jurisdiction. I've been here almost 2 years. I think maybe a little over a year, and I'm still fighting to for jurisdiction.
Yeah.
In Santa Monica, they want me to move back there.
Oh, so they probably want you back there so they can, doesn't California have different laws than Texas?
Yeah, they do. And I don't know if you remember, do you remember the Anna Nicole Smith?
Yeah.
Trial? They always, whenever you have if you're an artist and you're born and raised in Los Angeles or California, like myself, or you move to California and you try to be an artist or, sell your a lot of times what they do, they don't make it popular until you die, but they'll just really, like you said, isolate and micromanage you, and just really try to break you down. And you know, when I was younger, I started a jewelry company, and when, you know, I had injuries from dancing and things of that nature as you get older, you know, and I decided to start my own business, and I was hand-painted silk scarves and jewelry, and it took off really quickly. I think my first show sold out in Abbot Kinney in Venice, and then the Lowe's Hotel acquired. They curated my jewelry and some of my silk scarves and my orchid photography, and it was featured there. And from there, I got published in Malibu Magazine and Ocean Scene Magazine, and I got into another boutique in Montecito, and it was going so great. And all of a sudden, I would walk into these locations, and the whole vibe just changed. And I just knew. I'm like, oh, damn, they got to him. And then they started misspelling my name, you know, on purpose in publications, and my website got hacked, and I started getting death threats, you know, the whole fun stuff.
They gave you death threats over stuff.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Yeah, I eventually stopped. I just stopped doing it. So.
Yeah. Well, I had the death threats too, but I was on the phone, so I would just joke them off. I didn't care. I'm like, I don't leave the house.
Yeah.
Good luck.
Yeah.
So
if I go anywhere, I always have a witness. You know, I always have a chaperone, and because I would literally, before I left LA, I couldn't even go to the grocery store. It was insane. And the only thing that kept me sane, you know, before I left there was the Zeph report.
Yes. Oh my god.
I would walk around with the Zeph report in my ears everywhere I went, and I would just like block out the whole world, you know?
Yeah. Well, it's the voice of like sanity. No, it's true. It's true. Oh my god. That's so funny.
So, are you familiar with George Webb's work?
Yeah. A lot of his information about the JTTF and the bogus investigations being run, he covers all that about, you know, the immunity trafficking. I think I posted some of it on my Facebook a long time ago, kind of around the time when we did our first interview. And he explained a lot about how, you know, like more intricately into the immunity trafficking, and how basically they're using JTTF police to do night shifts to run harassment on people who have been targeted. So I'll find the video, and it's been a while since I saw that content. But no, he's amazing. He has so much information.
So I mentioned to you this morning, I mean, this is going to get a little bit out there, but I don't want to hold back. You know, I woke up this morning, and I was super lightheaded. Like I felt like I had, like I still am kind of lightheaded today. And so you and I really don't sleep very much.
No.
I'm wondering, you know, how they are doing this. It's like electroshock therapy or something.
Well, I know with mine, well, I purposely don't sleep. You know, like I stay up as late as I can. But when we talked about how the sleep cycle is only 2 to 4 hours, you know, and then you never really feel like you slept, from what I heard, that's being done by a frequency being run through the house. And then I had even heard, too, that it's being timed by an AI supercomputer. But that, I mean, that's out there, but it's a possibility because it's always like between 2 and 4 hours.
and it's always around the same time. I mean, I notice, well, I think too, I've trained myself too, because I'm always looking out for the Zeph report, you know, when it's coming on at 3:00 in the morning. and I really gotta, it's like my habit, you know, I can't, it's all, it keeps, you know, it keeps me sane. So, but yeah, you know, I'll sleep for a few hours and then it's like, I'm up and I can't go back to sleep, and I'm on Facebook and I'm doing research and, you know, but lately they've switched it up on me to where I can't go to sleep till like 5 or in the early morning hours.
Yeah. Well, I know in my house, it's either I can stay up till 5 o'clock in the morning, or like about 11 o'clock, midnight or so, something hits and I don't even remember falling asleep, and I'm knocked out completely. Mm-hmm. And they do that with frequencies also. I mean, they can do a lot of things with our brains in these weapons, unfortunately.
So let's get into the weapons a little bit, because you know a lot more about it than I do.
Well, there's a lot of different weapons, and trying to identify which ones are being used on you it can be kind of hard. But I recently had an attack in the beginning of June that was brand new. And I found out that they were using a sonic weapon against my heart and my lungs, trying to damage them. And I had a bruise in the middle of my shoulder blades, and I thought like someone attacked me or something, because it looked like it. Then I was able to find out through, like, you know, documents and some help from some other people, that basically what they had been hitting me with was, I don't know the exact term, but it was sonic. I've had LRAD sent to my house where I'll be in the middle of doing a video about, you know, something controversial, and I'll be taping it, and I'll get the tape for you, where literally they sent something over my house, like a vibration. The whole house shook. Part of the windows broke at midnight.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it was wild. I mean, this is how much I'm under surveillance. Uh-huh. And that video is on my Facebook. It's amazing. I'm in the middle of talking, and then all of a sudden I feel like Ray Liotta with, like, you know, like planes following me in Goodfellas. Mm-hmm. It was nuts.
And for, you know, we'll go on live and we'll be discussing it, and I'll see you on your live and I'll be like, oh my gosh, I can use you as like a barometer.
You can. No, you really can. Well, I mean, I have like a whole series of drones above my house that basically I found out that they power each other, but they look like stars. But if you go outside and you look, it feels like 100, but maybe there's like, I don't know, 50 or so above there. And then I have other drones that fly around. I've been able to capture those, but they're basically doing a lot of testing, because once you get put on the counterterrorism list, then I guess there's a loophole, and they can run all kinds of like medical tests on you, weapons testing, all that stuff. So it's never really a dull moment around here. Uh-huh. If I'm not sleeping by 1 o'clock in the morning, my drone is right outside the window every single night, just waiting for me to go to bed. And it's like by the trees. You
need like a little BB gun where you can just like shoot him down. Well,
I want to get like 5 drones of my own and have like a Star Wars. Like have my own, like, you know, like galactic like war going on above the house. You know, like give them something to talk about.
Yeah, I love your sense of humor about all of it. You know,
you have to keep this, because this is ridiculous. Mm-hmm. I'm like, you know, like I'm always at home. I'm making bread. I'm like, you know, like creating recipes, and I have like, you know, military grade drones all around my house, and it's like, why? Mm-hmm. You know, it's so weird. It's it's bizarre, the whole thing. So,
so recently, I want to share something with you. I've been having something new occur, regarding my abilities.
Mm-hmm.
And I haven't really talked about it very much, but, I'll have these dreams where I'm literally, it's really real. It's more real than this reality.
Mm-hmm.
And like I opened the show and I mentioned I was dreaming that I was walking into my living room to get something to drink, and you were on my couch, and you're like, "Can I have some coffee?" And then I have you on my show, so I'm having these. I don't know if it's like a bleed through to where, because it's more substantial. It has more. It has more of like a real feel than what we have now. It's more solid. I don't quite know how to explain it quite yet. But I've had like 3 of these experiences where the frequency it's totally different.
Okay, but it's almost like you're in a video game where you're totally cognizant of. It's not, how like when you dream and it's like a movie and you see everything that's going on, but then this one it's like more interactive. Mm-hmm. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. From what I know, when I get those, it's usually directed dreaming.
Mm-hmm.
And it's basically some kind of a, I guess do you have any kind of pain in your head when you wake up from these, or any physical experiences?
It's the lightheaded feeling.
Okay, yeah. Well, more than likely, it's a directed dream. Mm-hmm. And basically it's kind of like Pick Your Adventure book, where they're testing to see what you'll do,
mm-hmm.
Or how corruptible you are. They do this every once in a while. My phone. If that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
That I get them and they're vivid, but I'm cognizant of what's going on. Like I see people I don't like, and I'm like, oh, get them away. But it's like a choice.
Mm-hmm.
Is that what happens to you, or?
Yeah, sometimes it'll be really. It's almost like I want to go into this in more detail, and I think that they are really struggling to maintain this reality that we have right now.
Yeah.
And I think what's going to end up happening, I'm hoping and I'm praying what's going to end up happening is they're not going to be able to, it's hard for me to, it's so involved, but I do the Julie Juice cleanses every other weekend because, they're spraying us, they're terraforming, and they're trying to mutate our immune system so that we will house these foreign bodies and objects that we absorb daily, because we're able to stay in this reality. I'm really doing a bad job at explaining this, but
it's called terraforming. They're terraforming our bodies.
Mm-hmm. And they have to keep our immune system compromised, so that, because if we had a full functioning immune system that's totally healthy, we would be purging out these programmable, the programmable flesh, the matter, the processed food, spirit cooking stuff that they're doing, and the smart dust and the chemtrails. All of this is, they have to keep our immune system suppressed so that we won't purge it. I think it has something to do with me doing the protocol, and every once in a while I'll have these epiphanies, this isn't real. I don't I'm probably not explaining it very well, but
you are. Well, more than likely, those dreams are just directed dreams to see how much control they have over you and what free will choices you're still making. Because everything with these people is research and development.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So, like, I know if you wake up feeling lightheaded, or if you have any kind of like pain or feeling in the occipitals, like the back of your head, usually that's they're using some kind. The weapons get me because there's so many, but they're basically using some kind of a frequency to read your EEGs and test your impulses and evoke responses and everything.
I think they use us as test subjects because we're so immune to a lot of I think a lot of what they do against us, because we're hypersensitive, right? Because we intuitively know. So I have had to develop ways of I know that I just intuitively, instinctually know what they're doing. So I'm always researching online ways to combat some of these attacks.
Yeah.
Because I know instinctively that I'm not functioning at full capacity, right?
Yeah, no, I'm not either. Could you imagine if I was? Oh my God.
Oh my God, I know, right? I know. Could you imagine if we really had access to all of how we're really meant to function, humanity in general?
Well, you know what? If I was in your dream, they may have been doing like a dual test. You know what I mean? To see if they have two of their subjects in the same room, what would happen if they interacted in the same dream. I don't know if I was sleeping when you had that dream, but it's possible because we seem to be on the same cycle.
Yeah. It's really interesting. It really is. It's kind of fun. It's kind of fun too. So what have we not covered?
Oh God. The questions of the universe.
Oh my gosh. Have you ever watched that movie, Hitchhiker's Guide to the Universe?
No, I've heard of it though.
Oh, it's so fun.
No, I had some man that kept putting 42 on my page all the time. This guy I didn't know, but he would always leave 42. I'm like, okay.
I love that movie. It's just it cracks me up. There's a lot of truth in it, but they're very humorous. A lot of humor. I love it.
That's important.
Yeah, we've got to keep a sense of humor, right?
You got to, otherwise we're in big trouble.
So, how do people find you and find your research?
Well, I'm on Facebook. That's it right now. I don't have a website or anything, but I'm under Katrina Hagen on Facebook.
Mm-hmm.
So.
And where have you published a lot of your... Because I know you have, you actually publish screenshots of these IP addresses and... On
my Facebook.
Okay.
Yeah, so I haven't... This was all just evidence gathering for myself is how this all began. Mm-hmm. I never intended to ever speak about any of this publicly. I just wanted to get the evidence, go get help, and end this and then move on. But it doesn't work that way. Mm-hmm. So now my evidence has kind of garnered a lot of attention because it's detailed. So
and it's going to be really instrumental in I think more and more as this comes to light and the evidence is irrefutable. Zeph had brought to my attention this website, targetedjustice.com. And it talks about these FBI fusion centers, the command centers and control for gang stalking, and it's hopefully, I sent it to one of my attorney friends, and what do you think of this? But it looks like it's going to be a really good resource for helping people, maybe get some remedy for these crimes.
They have a really solid team of people, like a really, really good team of people on there. So I would say, probably. I know Susan Fortunato Olsen. She's a friend of mine, and she's part of that too. So
I'd love to have her as a guest on my show.
Oh my God, she's fantastic. I'll tell her.
Okay.
She's so cool. Her story is a lot like ours. So, but she's real cool, really nice lady. I'll let her know.
Awesome.
Okay.
Right. I just want to make sure we didn't forget to cover anything.
Well, we could just do it another show.
Okay.
I know I'm hard to get because I'm like, no. Or I have so much evidence I don't know where to start. So, yeah. All right. Yeah,
well, you're also in the social media news network, and I oftentimes will, if I see you on live, I'll share your live, and it's really kind of fun to watch her live sometimes because she's really funny.
I'm a mess. So.
No, you're not.
No, I don't have much structure. I just kind of get on. I have no plan, and I just start talking.
How can we? We have to be unpredictable.
Yeah, exactly. We got to keep our right brain stimulated, be unpredictable, be the supercomputer.
Yeah, this supercomputer. Well, Katrina, thank you so much for coming on today.
No problem. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, we'll have to have you on more often.
Okay, wonderful. All right.
It's a deal.
All right. Bye-bye.
Okay, you have a great day.
All right, bye.
Bye-bye. Hey, Lisa. Hi, Brenda. Thanks for joining in, guys. So, wow, that was awesome. I love her. I love her. She's really kind of fun, and she's one of the good ones. So, yeah, that was another episode of Porthole to Justice Off the Cuff, and you can subscribe. Oh, thanks everybody for tuning in. Zeph, Brenda, Lisa. Hey, everyone in the chat. Share and socialize this on your Facebook feeds so you can have a interesting subject matter, and it's a topic, something to discuss with your friends and family. Oops. I got a phone call. Thanks for tuning in. And you can subscribe to my show for free on Spreaker.com. I'm on Twitter and Instagram. And you can join the Social Media News Network. I also, and exclusively on Facebook, I have most of my activism. So you can join there. And thanks for tuning in, guys. I am going to close out. Let's see. I'm going to try and find a good song. It's got to be a Zeph Daniels song. You know it. Let's see. Lately, I'm looking. Stand by. I have to pick out like one of my favorite ones. All right. I think this is Death Threat, vocals by Patricia Daniel. And you can find Zeph Daniels' music on Spreaker.
I told you they were following you. I told you they are after you. Because you tell the truth. You don't cover their lies. They are your death threat, death threat, death threat. They are your death threat, death threat, death threat. They are your death threat. have death threats. They lie about me. They cry into me. They hide from me. They see what I possess. They hide away. For now, I told you they were following you. I told you they were after you. Because you tell the truth. Because your voice is heard. You want a better world. They are your death friend, death friend, death friend. They are your death friend, death friend, death friend. They are your death friend, death friend, death friend. They lie about me. They pry into me. They hide from me. They seek what I possess. They slide away.
Football is here, and the games are on at Wing House Bar and Grill. Watch all the action with your friends and enjoy hot wings and perfectly poured cold beer. We have Budweiser and Bud Light draft pints for only $2.49 and buckets of 5 bottles for $12.99 every Saturday and Sunday. Get a taste of our limited time End Zone Eats menu with big, meaty pig wings. And nothing says game time more than a grilled bratwurst. This house was built on wings, cold beer, and football. Wing House Bar and Grill. Good food, beautifully served.